day, everybody. It's July 22nd, 2021. I'm Leslie Bory for Brantford News. I'm at a protest for James Sears. He's been sentenced to 1 year in jail for hate speech against women and against Jews. All right, folks, more trumped up charges in this communist country of ours, and they're putting us in jail for speaking our minds. All right, so we've got some information placards made up. In this case, it was they were talking about intolerance on the news. Well, the Jews aren't the ones in jail for speaking their minds, but Canadian is. A Canadian named James Sears. The Talmudic Jews are intolerant and hateful. They put Canadians into cages for speaking, all right? Just for speaking and not threatening. Just make a note of a few realities, folks. And he was referring to history when he was making his satire and taking part in his journalism with Leroy St. Germain, the owner of Your Ward News. And that's a little background information. He was the editor of Your Ward News, and they made a very funny but very vulgar, very crude paper. If you believe it, it was like vulgarity based in, I don't know, an intellect, I guess. They were very clever, very, very clever jokes in that newspaper, but they were very, very vulgar, but they were very funny as well. We've got people here supporting Mr. Sears, taking time out
like the normal turban you see from
to see if we can prevent other Canadians from being put in prison.
I was just going to say an important point.
Oh, yes.
The turban is a Khalistan turban.
Yes.
If you read the book by what's her name? The woman who writes the book about the
Free James Sears.
Thank you very much.
Free the January 6th political prisoners.
Thank you. I'm going to I'll keep your identity secret here, sir. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for taking part in this. You're a courageous person to risk your future and your employment to stand up for another Canadian. That takes some courage. Thank you very much.
Well, at the end of the day, obviously, I wouldn't wish prison on any of my comrades. But at a certain point, prison is just something you're going to have to. If it comes for you, it comes for you. I mean, Alexander Solzhenitsyn didn't relinquish any of his views when he was in the Gulag.
No.
So not that I'm belittling what James Sears is going through, but you know, there's more important things than employment and status. You should obviously only risk them reasonably.
What you just said is very important at this day and age in Canada. We've been threatened all the time, and that's why it's a weapon against the Canadian people, to scare them into being quiet and to not taking action. And people like you that are disregarding a little bit of their own personal safety to consider others are very good Canadians, and I'm glad you're here.
Thank you.
And I'm sure there are many more that are like you as well.
Oh, there are.
Yeah. Thank you.
No problem.
All these good people here are just showing their support for a fellow Canadian who identifies as Canadian. Unfortunately, not all people in Canada identify as Canadian. And some people have their own personal or their little minority privileges. And the Jewish community certainly does have that. I don't like having different communities in Canada. I think we should be one big country with one people, with one law. All right? And disagreeing with people doesn't always mean you're hateful. I disagree with my friends, some of the people here, like once in a while. And they don't have to be thrown in jail, and we always have decent conversations about things, and that's how you learn when you disagree sometimes. I'm just waiting for a moment here to get a couple of words out of Mr. Paul Fromm. He's having a conversation with someone. We don't want to interrupt that. But here's the detention center where James is being held. The guards seem very nice here. They come out once in a while and they talk to us. We have a couple laughs here and there. They're real decent people, and I'm sure they're taking good care of James in there. But the thing is, he shouldn't be behind bars. All right, so this is going to get worse as these Jewish supremacists lobby to have more laws put on the books that limit what we can say. There's also already the bill 168 in Ontario And it's a Jewish supremacy law, just like they had in Russia. And in Russia, if they found you to be against communism, you're anti-Semitic, and they kill you, because communism is the political ideology of Jewish supremacy, and so is Marxism, all right? So they're both created by Talmudic Jews, and they're and that's a fact, folks. And they don't like people that aren't Jewish for the most part, it seems. According to their Talmud, they call us animals, they call us goyim. They say we're animals in human form created to serve them, all right? So that's not the Canadian way, all right? What James Sears did was the Canadian way. He told people about these folks. All right, and you see Mr. Paul Fromm's here. Well, you might want to stay on the sidewalk there, Paul. I don't want you to get a no trespassing ticket here.
Oh, no. Well, I don't know how I can get a trespassing ticket. Leslie, I own this place. I'm a taxpayer. I paid for it.
That's it. So how's it going today, Paul?
Well, this is good. This is our second protest for Dr. James Sears. It's actually the fourth. A lady named Lily was out here last week.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she took a video and she was out here yesterday. Wednesday seems to be her Dr. James Sears Day, but this is the Canadian Association for Free Expression. We're here, and we will be here until Dr. Sears is released. Dr. Sears, of course, is here as a political prisoner, and I want to emphasize why I say that. Amnesty International says that a political prisoner or a prisoner of conscience is a person in jail or punished solely for the nonviolent expression of their political or religious or social views. Dr. Sears is a brilliant writer and satirist. He satirized or criticized a number of people, the far left, Justin Trudeau, radical feminists, Zionists, and so on, and the anti-free speech people like Richard Warman of the Canadian Anti-Hate Network agitated and eventually got his mailing rights taken away. Cafe was involved in that fight to try to preserve those rights, and then he was charged under the hate law. He was tried in 2018. The verdict came down in January 2019. He was found guilty, and his publisher Leroy St. Germain was also found guilty of willfully promoting hatred against Jews and women. The decision was not backed up by any real reasoning, and unfortunately, Dr. Sears' defense was we think basically sabotaged by his own lawyer. We had a number of good expert witnesses lined up and that were never called, and so the defense mounted was quite weak. So Dr. Sears appealed just not only the conviction but the sentence, and the sentence was very ruthless. The judge said this was the worst hate he'd ever read. I would respectfully suggest he doesn't read very much. If you want to read some real hate, read the Talmud.
Yeah, the Talmud.
Or other things.
Oh.
This is mild stuff. And it was humor. I mean, this is the problem with politically correct Canada. No sense of humor. The joyless, miserable, masked, and dumb. Anyway, the judge said, well, he would give him 36 months if he could, but the law would only allow him to give him 6 months. But he was given a 6-month sentence consecutive. So that adds up to a year. He then appealed. The appeal was heard last November. The decision came down on June 14th, and the decision was that the appeal judge upheld the conviction and the sentence. So now Dr. Sears is appealing to the Ontario Court of Appeals. Now that sounds a little convoluted. You might say, well, he already appealed. Well, this is a higher level of appeal. He's seeking leave to appeal, and normally that would be granted, and he would then be out on bail until such time as the appeal is heard. For reasons we cannot quite understand, the judge is taking forever. Now, forever is now 5 weeks. to decide whether he should be given leave, and that's just simply permission to appeal. It doesn't mean the judge has heard the appeal. Meanwhile, he is kept in prison here, almost incommunicado. I think his closest supporter has had, I think, 7 phone calls from him, and they're all very brief, and his wife has had 1 or 2. And then he's been in here for now 5 weeks. So we're here because we believe in free speech, and I've got here the flag of the real Canada, the red ensign, and when this red ensign flew and John Diefenbaker was Prime Minister of Canada, he gave us something called the Bill of Rights. Now, you don't hear too much about that anymore, but that really should have been our law. It talks about free speech being inviolable. Our present Charter of Rights and Freedoms is we give you a little bit, we take a little bit. You never know what you really have at all. So we're here because we believe freedom of speech is important and freedom of the press is important. And it's a disgrace that, as far as I know, only one newspaper man in Canada has had any negative comment about this, that what's happened to Dr. Sears, that this is wrong. It's wrong to put a person in prison because of their political views, and even more wrong because he wrote humor. But humor bothers them most of all. You know, was a great cartoon from the period of the last days of Soviet Russia, and the cartoon is a kind of a line drawing of 2 burly commissars on a reviewing stand, and one turns to the other and says, "Comrade, the people are laughing." And the other one looks and says, "Comrade, they're laughing at us." And I think that's what particularly annoyed them about Dr. Sears. He's laughing at them.
Yeah, he's laughing at their lies too, about the history, about Germany, what they say about Germany, things like this. And I'm a little bit puzzled. If Mr. Sears was convicted of hate against women, the Talmud, it says that women aren't even human beings like the rest of us unless they're Jewish. You know, and it also says that they can be, whatever you can do to a piece of meat, you can do to a non-Jewish woman. And all kinds of other stuff, which I won't go into, involving little girls. Do you know what I mean? And James Sears is in prison while these rabbis, you know, continue to preach this hate in Canada. Also, a rabbi this morning said he was assaulted. I felt very bad for him. Oh, he said someone hit him, Paul, with of all things, words.
Who hit me with words.
With, of all things, words.
Words. Oh my gosh.
I'm getting old. I'm an old machinist. Maybe I misunderstand him. I shouldn't mock him. Maybe he said turds. Maybe somebody hit him with turds. Now that would be wrong because we're in a war of words. We're not in a war of turds. We don't fling turds. We fling words. Right, Paul?
Yes. Was this the rabbi with the big gray beard and the sombrero?
Yeah, I thought it was Haas from Bonanza for a second there, but he didn't look honest, so I don't think it was him.
Well, yeah. You see, words almost don't mean anything these days, or they don't mean what they seem to say. He said he was assaulted, and then he says, by words. Well, we say, in other words, somebody made a comment at you. 20 minutes ago, some guy drove by in a car and made some nasty comments about us. Well, I wasn't assaulted. I did hear a guy run his mouth, but that's not assault.
Yeah, maybe he was shaken up. Maybe someone rolled the newspaper up and hit him with that like a dog. And maybe then he got hit with words, and that would be legitimate assault. Yeah. And I would have nothing to say about it, and
No, I agree. But we are in a time in Canada where free speech is really under assault. We know that Trudeau tried to bring in both Bill C-10 and Bill C-36. Both of them have as their target the internet, because that is the only place where ordinary Canadians are free somewhat free to express their views. I mean, you're not going to get your views or my views into the daily papers. They are so tightly controlled by the cultural Marxists and their camp followers, and similarly radio and TV. CBC is not going to come around and interview us, or if they were to interview us, it would only be to then cut away and call us a bunch of names.
Oh, they would edit the truth of it. I am certain they're good at it.
Yeah, well,
that's off.
They would show you with your camera and me with the flag, and then they wouldn't quote us, but they would tell the audience that, well, a bunch of lies. I won't bother putting the lies in.
Yes, my camera would be called Zyklon B, and your flag would be a gas chamber or an oven. heaven.
A mobile gas chamber.
Exactly. We came equipped, I guess they'd say. All right, Paul. Thanks very much, and it's good to see you again. And I'm sure, well, unfortunately, I'm quite certain that we'll be doing this a bit more.
Unfortunately, I think you're right, but I hope you're wrong. I hope I'm wrong.
All right. Thanks very much, Paul, for your time.
Thanks.
All right, guys. We're under attack in Canada. We've been for quite some time now. It's been a slow death they've been given to us. But now we're starting to see the end, all right? So we know what's going on. And when they start making it where you can't speak, you guys better start paying attention. I'm sure a lot of people on this channel are. And I hope we get more viewers, and I hope people start tuning into what's going on. And you guys take it easy. All right, good day, bye.